Everybody has been pretty excited over the recent Ermac trailer for Mortal Kombat 1. However, the next set of character and cameo together is also bringing back Mavado as a cameo, who hasn't been seen in an official MK title since Armageddon, a game that had its final version on the Wii come out in 2007. I don't need to tell you that that is a really long time, and as such, has had a lot more modern fans ask the question of, who the hell is Mavado? Well, this video is here to answer that exact question and give you a complete look at who this character is, where he comes from, what his story contains, and what his general gameplay looked like. Now, don't get it confused, this video is not a competitive history of Mavado. This is merely a video that answers a question that many people have at the moment for a truly old school character that we haven't seen for a long time, and in a lot of cases, a character that I think many people will be seeing for the very first time in Mortal Kombat 1. So, without further ado, this is everything you need to know about the Red Dragon original, Mavado. I think to start with, let's go into a little bit of story and where this character comes from. Because the story of Mavado is simple, yet it essentially introduced a rival clan to the Black Dragon that is not special forces, and that's the important thing here. Now, Mavado's debut kind of cemented the existence of the Red Dragon, a clan who, when reading Mavado's various bios, suggests that the Red Dragon existed before the Black Dragon. His bio in Deadly Alliance, which is his gameplay debut, reads the following: The Red Dragon had existed for centuries as a secretive criminal organization. Members such as Mavado were highly skilled and disciplined warriors. But in the last century, many of the more reckless members became dissatisfied with the restraints the code of the Red Dragon had placed on them and broke away to form their own gang. Since then, it has been the Red Dragon's #1 priority to completely eradicate the infidels known collectively as the Black Dragon. Now, there is an alternative bio in Deadly Alliance for this character, something that was very common with characters that had obviously two different costumes to give a little bit more lore, and Mavado says the following: It was thought that the Black Dragon had been completely destroyed until Mavado was approached by the two sorcerers, Shang Tsung and Quan Chi. The sorcerers offered to hand over the last member of the Black Dragon, which was Kano, in return for Mavado's assistance in eliminating a spy in Outworld. Mavado accepted the offer and travelled to Outworld with Quan and Shang by way of a secret interrealm portal located in the Lost Sea. The swordsman who had been spying on Shang Tsung for the past few months would soon be eliminated. This overall story does expand somewhat in Armageddon, where here it's stated that Mavado is in fact one of the leaders of the Red Dragon, as the Red Dragon grew far more relevancy in the Armageddon story due to Taven's brother Dagon, who was kind of the villain of the whole thing. He would be in the conquest mode for a short time when Taven enters the Red Dragon stronghold, although to be fair, Mavado is only really seen briefly where he's one of the story mode fights. There isn't an extensive background in the 3D era, but it is clear that he is a key member of the Red Dragon organization. And to be honest, when looking back on this character, that's kind of all you need to know. This character is highly skilled, highly respected, and an important member of a new organization that existed in the 3D era. So, from a visual standpoint, Mavado's most iconic look belongs to his long trench coat and black and red color palette. That's something that's clearly lending itself to the Red Dragon idea, right? But this long coat that he's always had has been almost completely remade in Mortal Kombat 1, where he essentially looks exactly as you'd expect him to. But he didn't always look like this. Early in the development of Deadly Alliance, the team wanted to give him more of a sort of matador look, but when watching behind-the-scenes videos with Steve Baran and Ed Boon, the design they originally went with just didn't really fit Mortal Kombat at all, so eventually his design was returned to the drawing board, where the trench coat was given to him. Funny to think that such an iconic 3D character, especially with how he looks, wasn't even the original idea, but I'm glad they went with what they went with, because in Mortal Kombat 1, even now, the design still looks incredibly interesting to me. But even then, this whole look is brought forward even more when you realize that his cameo finishing move is almost a total one-to-one remake of his one and only fatality in the entire franchise. Remember, Deadly Alliance had only one finishing move per character, and his second appearance in Armageddon had a kind of create a fatality system, so nobody had their own unique one, right? It was up to the player. It was cool to see this fatality come back, and I gotta say, it's much better in Mortal Kombat 1. In Deadly Alliance, it was probably one of my least favorite finishing moves of all time, so sorry Mavado, but I wasn't much of a fan. Outside of the look, he is also remembered for being the only other character in the entire franchise to fight with hook swords, previously only belonging to Cabal. But in the 3D era, it is suggested, or sometimes even stated really, that Mavado had defeated Cabal in combat, and he took the hook swords as a trophy, using them in Deadly Alliance. So for the final section of this video, let's talk about some gameplay. In Deadly Alliance, where we saw Mavado for the first time, he fought using Long Fist, Wing Chun, and of course, the hook swords. Now, I don't really need to go into detail about his attacks in this game, because really that isn't the point of this video, but I gotta say, he had some of the more standard stuff that a character needs in this game. Now, the hook swords themselves had some okay attacks to them, but when this weapon was given back to Cabal in Mortal Kombat Deception, the stance would definitely be better. And when that weapon was given back to Mavado in Armageddon, it was kind of like the exact same moves as Cabal, but at the same time, some of those properties that were definitely better in Deception were given to Mavado and not Cabal. So that was a really interesting situation where even though the original Hook Swords character had his weapon back in Armageddon, Mavado actually had a better version. The most iconic part of Mavado's gameplay, however, lied in his rope attacks. This character across Deadly Alliance and Armageddon had a variety of ways to both move around the stage and actually attack you using these wrist-mounted ropes. Now, it wasn't just the attacks that people remember. It was the sound effects. If you don't believe me, look, check it out. It was kind of this one sound effect that people would just instantly know Mavado for eventually. I find it really funny, but I'm not gonna lie, I don't mind. It made the character stand out, and truth be told, I was kind of holding out a hope that some of these sound effects would return. We can't really tell much from the trailer, but I'm always hoping that at least one of these moves just goes. Either way though, these rope attacks were Mavado. So we always knew that they were going to do something to come back in some way or another. But it's just cool to see them working the way they do in Mortal Kombat 1, because really, it's what you might have expected if you played this character all those years ago. All of a sudden, he's coming back with a better looking version of many attacks that we often remembered. Hell, even his OTG sliding kick is a special move that he had in Armageddon. His forward throw is almost the same move in MK1 as it was in the previous games. Gameplay-wise, a lot of it has just been remade exactly how you remember it. And when you're bringing a cameo into a game, where the whole point of the cameos is to celebrate lesser-used characters over the years, you kind of hope that their gameplay is retained. And considering Mavado in the 3D age, there wasn't really a game that had archetypes and characters that were doing stuff unique to them. If they had special moves, or even a few attacks that you remember, keeping the spirit of those attacks is clearly quite important. And in the case of Mavado, I genuinely think the team has done a really good job here. It remains a lot more to be seen exactly how these moves are going to work, and we do know that he has a new attack in a low-hitting, stunning mine, which he did not have in 3D, but overall, I'm very excited to see where this cameo can go, because he was one of the more requested 3D era characters for a very long time, and seeing him in the flesh now, it's kind of a throwback, really. I played these games for years growing up, and seeing this character return after not being in the franchise since 2007, it's really, really cool to see him back. But overall, that is everything you need to know about Mavado currently. We obviously haven't seen the in-depth look at the Mavado cameo in Mortal Kombat 1, but he only ever had 2 official appearances. We saw him in Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance, and we saw him in Armageddon. I'm not going to count the other ports of the games that happened because they weren't mainline titles. 2 different appearances to build an entire cameo moveset around. Sounded like it could have been quite the challenge, but I'm kind of interested to see how far this cameo can go in the world of competitive. Either way, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for checking it out. And if you did go into this video really not understanding who this character was, I do hope it has been able to help you just a small little bit. Take care of yourselves, stay tuned for plenty more Mortal Kombat, and I will see you next time. Take care.